Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, everyone. We have a geographically diverse audience once again. We have people from Europe, people from India, people from Brazil, from South America, from other Latin countries. So thank you once again for your attendance. Let me share with you, first of all, our amazing slides done by our awesome design team. So welcome to episode 2 of the Salesforce Developer Brick Road, which will give you a small introduction, a few introductions on how to become a developer, and how to start writing code. Previously on the Salesforce Developer Brick Road. So in the last week, we've seen first, what is a program? How are programs written? The structure of an Apex class, of methods, basic Apex syntax, or how does the computer understand what you're meaning, variables and data types, how to store data, collection of variables, how to store multiple chunks of data, and a brief introduction to the Developer Console tool, including running arbitrary Apex code into the Developer Console, which is quite simple. So for today, we're going to start with selection structures. You might remember me talking about those last week. So this is our first topic today. So how to be selective? What is being selective? Selective structures allow you to run code in a conditional way. So if this happens, do that. There are two main types of selection structures, which are if, else, and else if, and switch case. The entry conditions are set using comparison operators. But what are comparison operators? Here they are. Of course, comparison operators compare values. Kind of obvious. When you do a comparison, the comparison returns a Boolean, true or false value. So in the first case here, if the values of variables a and b are the same, the statement a equals b returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. The mathematical operators compare either integer or double values. So we have here equals, different, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. This works exactly like in mathematics. The operators equals and different can also compare Boolean and string variables. In such a case, you can have if a equals true or if a equals false. Something that must be noticed is that the comparison is done by using two equal signs. It's using two equal signs. And the different comparison uses a bang, an exclamation mark, then an equal sign. If you use just one equal sign, it is an attribution. You're attributing a value to a variable. So this is a distinction that has to be made. When you're comparing strings, you can also use equals and different. The logic operators, which you can see here, a and b, a or b, are used to compare Boolean values. And they can be combined by using a parenthesis, such as in the third example here. So in this case, if a equals b or a equals c. In the last example here, we have an inversion. So the exclamation mark before the name of the variable being a Boolean variable inverts its value. So if b is true and it has the bang sign before, it's inverted to false, and vice versa. So the first level of our comparison operators are if. So it executes one block of code, which you can see in red here, based on one comparison, which is set here in blue. If multiple comparisons are needed, you can use Boolean operators such as, say, if age is less than 18, then two pipe signs, so the OR operator, if B equals C or something. So you can do that. The parenthesis here must return one Boolean value. If this condition is true, then the code inside is executed. The second level is adding else, the else structure. So if the condition in the if statement is not true for whatever reason, this block shown in green here is executed. And here's the third level, the else if operator. So when you have multiple if statements, you can do them in sequence by using else if statements. So in this case here, in this example, if the first condition holds true, the following conditions are not executed. If the first condition is false and the second is true, then the block here in brown is executed. If none of the conditions stated before are true, hold true, the else block underneath is executed. The else block can be omitted if need arises. Some administrators can recognize this type of structure from Process Builder. So when you're doing a Process Builder, a process there, you have the object in the first block. Then you have the first set of criteria. You have a list of actions. And at the last column, there is a setting that allows you to either run the next set of criteria or not. You can say stop. Doing this is functionally the same as having multiple criteria and the stop instruction afterwards. So let's see the results of the code we were seeing. This code is also available in my GitHub account. Let me show you here. Let me send you here the address so you can download this code. What we're going to do here is to execute this code 3 times. The first time we're going to execute it using age 12. So the first condition here holds true. You can see that the ask for parental permission phrase is printed in the debug log, and the end of execution, which is outside of all the criteria, is also displayed, but the other phrases are not. Same goes for age 70. In this case, the age is greater than 18, so the first block is not executed. And the age is greater or equal to 65, so it's 70, so this holds true. And you can see that the phrase elderly people are priority is printed out in the log. If none of the conditions say if age equals 30 it holds true, then the else block is executed. So you have here system.debug permission not needed. You can see that it's displayed. All right. The next example is the switch case. It's another way to compare a variable to multiple values. It allows you to have simpler and more readable code because you have here switch case 1. It's more akin to plain English than to programming language. But this kind of structure is less frequently used than if, else, if, because it's less flexible. So you cannot have comparison operators. The structures, the matches there must be exact. The break command here, you can see here in brown, halts execution of the following comparisons. So it's like in Process Builder, the example I was using. You have that instruction, evaluate next criteria or do not. So break says do not evaluate next criteria. At the end, the default block is executed if none of the previous values match. First question I have for you is, what is the main limitation of switch case structures? I want you to vote in the best option here. Okay, so let's go through all the alternatives here. First, no one voted for, there's no other structure. Yes, that's false. You have the default block, which is the other structure if none of the criteria are true. Can't use variables. No, you're actually comparing a variable to multiple values, and these values can be variables. So there is this limitation is not true. Can't do more than 2 comparisons. Yes, it can, but not at the same time. So you can have, if the value is 2, or if it's 3, if it's 4, it allows you to have multiple comparisons, but the matches must be exact. And the correct answer is matches need to be exact. Next question for you, and this comes before we go into iteration structures. What does iterate mean? You'll see in the poll, and let me do something here. So what does iterate mean? What does the word iterate mean? Well, everybody is getting it right. Exactly. To iterate means repeat. Unfortunately, due to a platform limitation, the Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny cartoon is not repeating itself, but it should be Daffy coming, tearing the duck season placard, and the one that comes behind says Rabbit season, and then Bugs Bunny comes and tears it down, and the next one says duck season. So it repeats over and over again. Yes, iterate is repeat. The iteration structures allow for running the same block of code multiple times, usually either for different data or to try something multiple times. There are 3 main types of iteration structures, which are for, while, and do while. We're going to see them in a minute. For loops are used when the number of iterations is known beforehand. It also works for lists. You'll see an example in a minute. And while and do while loops usually are used when the number of iterations is not known beforehand. So let's see first the for loops. First of all, a simple for loop, normally, just like we do in Java, has a counter, a maintenance condition, and a counter increment. So prior to the first iteration, the counter variable is initialized. So that's why you have here in red, it looks like the declaration of a variable, because that's exactly what it is. After each iteration, the increment, which is set in green here, is applied. And after applying this increment, the maintenance condition in blue is evaluated. And if that condition still holds true, the loop is executed once again. If you have a set or list, you don't need a counter. You can do just for string. First, you have to set the name of the variable that's going to hold the current value. Sorry, everyone. And column, and then the name of your list variable. So you can see here, list, string list, blah, blah, blah. And during each iteration, the string current variable is going to be set with each of the elements in the list here. And the loop will automatically stop once the end of the list has been reached. So you don't need to worry about null pointer exceptions. This is a while loop. It repeats if and while the condition holds true. So the condition is first evaluated prior to each iteration, including the first one. That means that if the condition evaluates to false prior to the first execution, the code inside the loop won't run at all. So if you just type this code here into your Salesforce org and you set start to 21 and end to 20, you can see that end is going to be greater than count, and the condition will be false, and the code here will not be executed at all. As I've mentioned before, this is useful when the number of iterations is not known beforehand. Do-while loops, on the other hand, are almost the same as while loops, but the condition is evaluated after each iteration. So it means that the code inside the do loop here runs at least once. It's useful when you want to run something, check its results, and if the result is not exactly what you need, then you run it again. Look up, look down. So about visibility. If you look at our previous examples, you'll see that the keyword public comes in before the name of a class or before in the beginning of a declaration of a method. Why is that? First of all, each set of curly braces defines one visibility scope. So you have these three scopes here. One is the whole class. One is each method here. The keyword public determines the visibility. So from which scope can this element be seen? Without the keyword public, the class, method, or variable is private and can only be seen within the current scope. With it, the class, method, or variable can be referenced from anywhere else into any other class, any other method, by using its qualifying name, which is class name dot method name or dot variable name. If a variable is set within a context, such you have here string message, it is also visible in child contexts, so contexts within that context, but not in parent or sibling contexts. So the variable message is not seen in the do hello world method here, and not in the hello world class also. And there's this second keyword, which is static. That defines the execution context. It means that the method can be called without instantiating the class first. Instantiating the class means setting a variable of that class with a type pertaining to that class, and doing new class name. So the execution must be invoked by using the qualifying name. Declaring the variable simply says it exists. It tells the computer, allocate some memory to and label it with this name. It must be initialized, so you need to attribute a value to it in order to be useful. And if a variable is used before being initialized, an error, which we call the null pointer exception, is thrown. So the code stops running and you have an error. Okay, let's have one more question about SOQL queries. So how many queries can be executed within a single Apex execution? This leads to that bad error, bad exception, that is the too many queries. The correct answer is 100. There are some contexts, such as when you're doing a task class and you have a test.start test method, but this is a bit more advanced, when you can actually run 200 queries. But mostly, in most contexts, you have a limit of 100 SOQL queries by execution. And you have a limit of 100,000 records that can be returned by those queries. So, keep a close eye on it. So how to write a query? What's the anatomy of a query? A minimum SOQL query contains at least the select one field to be retrieved from one object. This is a minimal SOQL query. It retrieves records from the Salesforce database. By database, you mean the objects, the Salesforce objects, according to a set of criteria. So you have first filtering criteria, which is the where keyword. And you have you can have multiple fields. You can use and or operators to specify multiple criteria. And you have to, if you want to mix operators such as where billing ship in Brazil or billing country Brazil and shipping country equals United States or something, you need to group the operators by using parentheses. This is like when you are, when you have a flow and you have the retrieve records element, you can set criteria there. That's what we're doing. Then we have ordering criteria, which allows ordering the results by a field's values. So I have order by the name of the field, API name, of course, ascending or descending. That means, first, in the context of numbers, ascending and descending. Ascending means the smaller numbers will come first. Descending means the larger numbers will come first. In the context of strings, ascending means A to Z, and descending means Z to A. And in the context of dates and times, it means ascending means oldest first, and descending means latest first. When you're filtering by a field that is not required, so you can have it empty, it's good to have these other words here, which are nulls first or nulls last. So nulls first means that blank fields will come first, and nulls last mean the records that have this field blank will come last. Last here is limit, which limits the number of records in the result set. We have here limit 100. It's useful for performance purposes when you are, say, when you want something, when you just want to check some of the records that are in your object. So how to run a query in the developer console? You open it up and you activate the query editor tab in the bottom pane. You can write your query in the field below. So you have select, field, from, object, and everything else. You have a history of the last queries you have executed in the right-hand side. So it allows you for quickly recall some of the latest executed queries. And if you make any mistakes while writing your query, once you click execute, the errors will be shown in this window here. You can see that it says any query errors will appear here. That's where they will go into. So we have a query here and we have executed. The results are in. So this is the results window in the developer console. The result count is provided on top here. You can see query results, total rows 36. You can double click a data field to edit it. So I have double clicked here this 40,000. I can change it to whatever I want. And once I modify and click somewhere else, these small red triangle will be shown on the corner of the field to show you that it has been modified. To save this into the database, you need to click Save Rows in the bottom bar. The ID field must be present in your query in order for the developer console be able to modify your data. If it's not, an error will be shown in your screen. You can also select rows, including multiple rows, using Control and Shift keys or Command Shift if you're using Macintosh. You click Delete Row here. You can create new objects by using Insert Row command here, but you need to remember to include all necessary fields in order to save a new record. Otherwise, when you click save, it's going to throw you an error. Oh, field X is missing, field Y is missing, that kind of stuff. You can also click refresh grid to run the query once again and check for results if any changes have been made. The insert row button is not very practical. I would recommend you have this access in Salesforce section here in the right-hand side. You can just click create new to go to the interface page where you create a new record in that object you're querying here. You also have two more buttons here, which are open detail page for the selected row, and edit page, which open the edit page in the interface for the selected row. We have a second type of queries, which are aggregate queries. Just like when you are doing a report and you can have groupings, you can have aggregations. You can also do that programmatically using queries. They allow for making aggregate reports. The fields can be aggregated by using the functions sum, count, count distinct, average, minimum, and maximum. You can see that the last three are abbreviated. And the field which you're grouping by must be also present into the select statement. So I have here select, stage name, the count of opportunities that are in each stage, and the sum of amount of those opportunities from opportunity, where billing country is the United States of America. And last, you have group by stage name, so the aggregate results will be shown by stage name. Let's run this query and see what it returns. Here it is. So you can see the multiple stage name here, the stage names which are configured in my org, the count of opportunities that are into each of those stages, and the sum of amounts of those opportunities. Talking about records, how to bring data into our code, how to use Apex to programmatically to do something with the database. As I have mentioned previously, Apex includes inbuilt support for the database. It's easy to use and readily available. You just need to do the operations in the code. You don't need to worry about opening a connection to the database and then closing it. Nothing of this. It's very easy to use. Queries may be inserted between square brackets, such as in the first two lines here. The results set can be assigned to a list variable. So you have list account, and you have all accounts in my org that are being pulled by this query here. If the query is filtered by a single ID or set to limit 1, the result can be assigned to a single variable. So I have a variable account, specific account equals, and I have a query here that's going to certainly return one single record because it's filtered by an ID or it's limit 1, or both in this case. You have to bear in mind that every code that you're going to use in the code needs to be queried first. So if you say here in this second query here, specific account, we haven't included the billing street field. So if I do this system.bug address and billing street, it's going to throw an error. Creating new records is also very easy. Bear in mind that every object in Salesforce is also a class. So in order to create a new record, you need to instantiate a new variable by using the object's API name as a class name. In this case, I am instantiating a new account object. So I have account, new account equals new account parentheses. Then you fill up the fields in this record with whatever values you want to. And last, you insert or upsert the record. You can also, when you are instantiating this new object, you can also have between the parentheses the you can declare the fields you want to fill in. Remember to separate them by a comma, but the last one does not contain a comma. And in the last, afterwards, you can insert or upsert it. You have a limit of, if I recall correctly, 100 DML operations per Apex execution. So if you're creating or modifying multiple records, you can add them to a list in order to efficiently use the DML operations limit. You can combine records for different objects into a single operation by using a list of S object, because every object in Salesforce is a subclass of the S object class. So you can have, say, an opportunity and a contact being inserted or upserted into a single operation. What's an upsert? Upsert means if a record exists, it's updated, but if it doesn't exist, it's inserted. That's what it means. In order to modify data from the database, from any object, it's quite simple. You can first query the records from the database. Then you set the fields with the new values and then update or upsert them. Simple as 1, 2, 3. Leonardo has said something about synchronism. I think he's talking about when you have an order of precedence, such as you need to have the account inserted first, you can then insert a related object, such as an opportunity or a contact. That is true. So you need to be very careful about these dependencies. To delete records within the Apex context, you just need to query the ID field from them and then delete it. Simple. All right, so what have we seen today? First, we have seen selection structures, the comparison operators, which are used to set the criteria, and the structures if, else, and else if, and then the switch case. Then we have seen the iteration structures, which are used to repeat the same block of code multiple times, which are for, while, and do while. Then we had a look on how to write SOQL queries, including aggregate queries, and how to include database operations, querying, and insert, update, upsert, and delete into your code. Coming up next week, scopes and visibility was already seen today. I have made a mistake here, but we're going to see test classes, triggers, and common pitfalls, which sometimes are made by novice programmers. Any questions, please type them in the chat or in the questions tab. I prefer in the questions tabs because it's easier to manage and I can flag them as being answered. So please feel free to send any questions you like. Yes, Barbara, this session can be viewed later. A link will be provided for a replay, so you can watch it at your leisure. No, Kyle, trigger is not hard, really. You'll see that it's just written a bit differently, but it's just a set of variables which you have to use. But you're going to see next week that it's quite simple. Okay, while you type your questions, let's go a bit further. We're going to have a small exercise here. So I want you guys to create a class that takes 2 arguments, a name and an age, and calculates the person's year of birth and then displays it into the debug. Steven is also asking how to extend the number of queries in an Apex execution. So he has 300 accounts. He wants to loop through them because the criteria-based updates for each account. You actually, I've seen Steven is typing here. He might be giving us a few more details about his use case. Oh, you want to update the zip code for each of the 300 accounts. So let me go back a few slides here. And because I've done something very similar in my example. Oh, this example here where we modify data. So what I'm doing here is first, I have this query here, which pulls all the records in my account object that have billing country set as Portugal. Then I iterate among all of those objects and set shipping country as Portugal also. So I have billing country already set, and I have shipping country. I'm setting the shipping country field here. So based on the country, you want to update the zip code. I don't know if that's exactly what you meant, but you'll need a lookup table in order to do it. All right, everyone, let's have the exercise. Do you have any questions about it? If you'd like to show what you've done, please upload it. Try to upload it to GitHub or something, and drop me a letter here in the chat. So Steve's example does not hit any limits. If he does the map thing, it does not. But if he tries querying the database for every of the 300 accounts for their zip code, yes, it's going to hit the limit. Let me try something here. Let me open up Developer Console. All right, so you'll have something here. So I'm going to declare first the list of accounts that's going to be updated. So I'm going to select ID. I think it's ship billing postal code. Billing. From account 4. So what we're having here, just give me a minute. So if for every of those accounts, say there are 300 accounts here, if for each of those accounts we have something like zip table. So we have a zip code table here. I'm going to call it zip table C. Of course, it's going to be to give me a compiler error because I don't have this table in my org, but let's say we have, let's pretend we have. Overflew my screen, so let me. So we got here. If I do this to discover to which country is in here, current accounts prompt. Oh, by the way, zip table C. If I do this exactly how it is coded here, what's going to happen? The first query I'm executing here is the query here in line 5. So I have 300 accounts here. And then I start for every of those 300 accounts, I query the database for the zip table. Oh, I forgot to. So for every one of those accounts, I'll be querying the database for which is the zip code into the table. All right, it's country here, idiot. So it's country here. But what's going to happen? It's going to run this, query 1. And then it's going to run 2, 3, 4, 5, 98, 99. When it gets to the 99th account, this loop here has been executed 99 times. So this query here has been executed 99 times, plus the one time this first query was executed, it's 100. What's going to happen? The next iteration, the query is going to be executed once again, but the governor is going to stop everything and give you an error, too many queries, because it's 101. That's what's going to happen. What do we have to do for this not to happen? So we can have here this. This zip table. I'm going to get this query from here. Remove the limit 1. And what's going to happen? This second query here in line 7 and below is going. Oh, by the way, I have to remove the where here. So this list is going to contain all the zip codes that contain in my object, in my fiction object here, which is zip table. Then I have to declare a map. So map, say integer, string, just like I've typed to you earlier. By the way, let me just copy and paste it. And for zip table C. Sorry. So for each of the zip codes that are in my table, I'll have to map zip code.add zip code current.zip code C, then country current.country C. All right. What happens next? I'm going to declare a new country variable, which is going to be set to map zip code.get. Do you remember how the maps operate? So I have the zip code as a lookup table. Current account dot billing postal code. What's going to happen here? Let me decrease the size a bit so you can see everything. It's deleted a bit too much. So that's what we've got here, this example. The map zip code, which contains all the zip codes and their related countries, is going to be called. So the map, the system is going to search for the postal code, for the zip code, and return the country, which is the the value set in line 12. And in line 18, we're going to set the billing country to our new variable. So that's what happens. This is the way we should do it, and this does not trip any of the governor limits. Is it clearer now? Natalie has just joined us from the Netherlands. She's had a few internet issues, but fear not. This session is being recorded. The previous session has been recorded. Also, you can have the link in Ascendix's LinkedIn page. Feel free to watch it, rewatch it, rewind it, and see however you see fit. Yeah, to understand, the only limit this will hit if there are more than 100,000 queries, 100,000 records returned. Let me try to pull up here the. Oh, sorry, it's not. It was there was an idea, but yeah, the limit is 50,000. You can see here in this page from Salesforce. You can see that total number of records retrieved by SOQL Queries is 50,000. Sorry, guys, I got a bit confused. Yeah, that's better than 10K. Yeah, surely. Mostly when working with large data sets. But if you need to work with even larger data sets than this, you can do the batchable. You can use the batchable interface. No, Leonardo, there would not be a problem with there because the DML operation, you can see here, the total number of DML statements issued is 150, but you can process 10,000 records as part of those 150 statements. So if you have a single update call with 5,000 accounts or any other records, you're still within the governor limits. All right, everyone. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Yeah, Barbara. Yeah, the difference here is that when you are retrieving records, you can have 50,000, but you are saving records, you can have 10,000. So you might, in the case of the of what we were discussing here, this example here, you could have 10,000 accounts and 5,000 zip codes, and you'd still be within governor limits. All right. Unfortunately, we're out of time here. It's already we've passed the hour. Stephen, thank you, Stephen. Thank you for your example, and thanks everyone for your participation in this session.